Hi guys, and welcome to this week's Sunday morning Josh's vlog tribe video. I hope you've all had a really good week as usual, and I hope you are still using the YouTube playlist that I put up, the kind of the worship, tribe worship. Again, it's just really important to make sure we take time to reflect and to worship each week. And I say I've just put a few songs on there that are kind of the songs that I like. Feel free to use them or use other songs, but it is important that we take that time to reflect and to worship and just to kind of be still and quiet each week. Um, so today, I'm kind of talking about the last few videos, or like a theme really that's been coming up since the beginning of lockdown, since I started doing these videos, has been about listening to God. How do we listen to God? Why should we listen to God? And and the different things we can do to ensure that we're taking time to listen to God, or just we're being mindful of the different ways God can speak to us. Now, one of the ways God can speak to us is through pictures or words. Now, it might be an odd thing if you've never had it to kind of think about God speaking to us in pictures or in words, and I think there's a point sometimes of being unsure if it's just our own imagination or if it's God speaking to us. But what I thought I'd do is I'd share with you a picture that I had from God this week in my own kind of prayer and reflection time, and then kind of say to you what I think it means. And for me, pictures, loads of people get like really vivid pictures of different things, pictures of specific things, where it's really easy to know exactly what God's trying to say with that. And sometimes they know exactly who it's for, and that's great. Some people will just get like a really weird random image that keeps cropping up in their head every time they pray. And we don't know what it means, we don't know who it's for. But if you think it might be God, the best thing to do is just to talk to someone. But sort of the picture that God gave me was of a kind of a big field and two tribes almost. On one side, you had a tribe who lived in quite modern buildings, brick buildings, metal buildings. They had heating, they had running water, they had filters, all of this. They lived a really, really modern life. And then on the other side of them was people who lived off the land. The shelter was the trees or natural caves. The food was stuff that grew. The heating came from kind of natural body heat, leaves, all of this. They lived off the land. Now, the picture, they came from the same tribe originally, and then the people who moved into the posh buildings, they said, we don't want to rely on the earth to provide for us. We want to be able to provide for ourselves. So they start doing things like building houses, creating their own sources of heat, kind of creating their own sources of food. They're not living off the land, that kind of thing. And what happens slowly after time is they forget how to live off the land. So they then look at the people on the other side, think, how could you live like that? How could you not live like us in our buildings and our heat and our food and that kind of thing? They forget how to live off the land, and they forget what the land can provide them. So that's the picture that God gave me. Now, for me, what God meant by that was this is kind of like an analogy for our walk with God. Now, God is, we often hear people say God is everything we need. God is all we need. He can provide for all of our needs. And yet so often when especially we're in a good place, but sometimes when we're in a bad place as well, we start to build structures in our lives that protect ourselves. We say, do you know what, this is great, for me, it's when it's going really well. Things are going fantastically well. And you go, okay, well, now things are going well. I'm going to do things by myself that safeguard me from bad things happening again. And I put structures in place to protect myself from things happening and to kind of fend for myself, just like these buildings that these people were doing. They're building things. It's almost saying, I don't want to rely on God all the time. I want to be able to do things in my own strength. And then, just like these people who built the houses, what slowly begins to happen is we forget what God can actually provide us. And what we start to do is those things that we can protect, so those things that we can build a structure around, or those things that we can safeguard in our lives, we leave. And then what we do is we try and fit God into the areas that we can't do ourselves. And actually, what God was saying to me is, you might just need to break down all of your buildings and go out into a spiritual wilderness. Go into a place where you have to fully rely on God. Go into a place where you cannot rely on the own structures or the own safeguards that you've put in your own life. And then what happens is we're reminded of what God can provide us. We're reminded that God can provide us with everything we need and everything that we want, and God can provide us more and more bountifully than these things that we put in place ourselves. Now, I really hope that means something to you. It's just an example of the kind of thing that God can speak to us with and how God can speak to us. And yeah, I hope it means something to you. That's what it kind of meant to me. So I hope you all have a really good week. I would encourage you, if you've never if God's never spoken to you through a picture or through a word, it may be that he just hasn't. It may be that you haven't noticed or realised that it was a picture or a word from God. So I just really encourage you this week to pray in your downtime and in your reflections. Really pray that God would speak to you, but more that he would reveal and that you would be able to see when it is God speaking to you and it's not just your own imagination. And if you're unsure, talk to someone. Talk it through with someone, what it is you think you might have seen. But yeah, that's my encouragement to you this week. Hope you all have a really good week, and we'll see you again after half term.